Now we are going to see the short note sternocleidomastoid, how to write the sternocleidomastoid if it is asked as a short note. So first this is a muscle. If muscle is asked for a short note, we should write the origin. So how will you write the origin? Sternocleido. So it means two heads, sterno and cleido. So you should write sternal part and the clavicular part. Cleido means clavicle. So clavicular part. So two parts. So sternal part from where it is getting its originated, clavicular part from where it is getting its originated. So we will draw a small diagram for that in the exam. So we will draw the manubrium sterni, and this is your body of the sterni, and this is the xiphosterni, and here is the clavicle, and then you have to draw the schematic diagram is enough. So from here you have to draw the sternocleidomastoid. The sternal part is arising from the sternum, front of the sternum. So it is going from here, and here is your skull. It is going towards the mastoid process, and here you will be having the nuchal lines. So it goes to the mastoid process. This is your sternal head, and the next one is the clavicular head. Clavicular head is arising from the medial part of the clavicle. This is the medial end, and from the superior surface of the clavicle. So it is going from the superior surface of the clavicle. So both the fibers are going up, and they are getting inserted into the mastoid process, and the lateral half of the superior nuchal line. This is a nuchal line, lateral, only the lateral half, to the lateral half of the superior nuchal line. So two origins. Number one is you have to mark this as a sternal head, which arises from the manubrium sternum front part, and it is the clavicular head. It arises from the upper superior surface of the clavicle, medial end, and both of them are going towards the mastoid process and the lateral half of the superior nuchal line. Understood? So you have to write the sternal part, front of the manubrium sternum, and then clavicular part from the upper surface, that is must, because it's going upwards. So upper surface or superior surface of the medial end of the clavicle. Understood? Finished. This is the two ends, and then getting inserted into what? So insertion, just now I said one goes to the mastoid process, and then lateral half of the superior nuchal line. That's enough. And this carries 2 marks plus 1 mark, 2 plus 3 marks, 3.5 marks over. And then next is the nerve supply. You should write sternocleidomastoid and trapezius, both are supplied by spinal accessory nerve. Sternocleidomastoid and trapezius, for your remembrance I am telling you. So these are supplied by spinal accessory nerve. Spinal accessory is motor. You have to mention spinal accessory is motor, and proprioception is by C3, C4 fibers. Cervical. This is for proprioception. Proprioception means sensations. Proprioception. This if you don't mention, we will reduce the marks. So spinal accessory is the nerve, and this is the motor nerve which acts for the action of the sternocleidomastoid, and C3, C4 are proprioceptive fibers. This you should mention. This is for the sensation, how your neck is, whether it is upside or down, or sternocleidomastoid is pulling this way, that way. For that you need to know the C3 or C4, that is proprioception. Then relations, when you write the relations of the sternocleidomastoid, you have to draw the muscle like this. This is your sternocleidomastoid, right? This is sternal end, and here is the clavicular end, and this is the muscle. So this is your muscle, and the muscle, this is the anterior half of the muscle, and this is the posterior half of the muscle. One important vein is lying on the muscle, that is your external jugular vein. So external jugular vein you should write, very important relation. Another one is cervical plexus. Cervical plexus means group of nerves are coming from the posterior border, middle and the upper 1/3 of the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. You will be having so many nerves. As already I said, this is your mastoid process where it is getting attached. So this is your mastoid process. So this is your neck. Understand? This is your neck mandible region. Understood? So this is external jugular vein. So one relation. Second relation, you have to write about the nerves. One nerve is crossing the sternocleidomastoid transversely, that is called as transverse cervical nerve. Another one nerve is going in an oblique direction, going to the angle of the mandible near the ear, that is called as great auricular nerve, and the other one is going back along the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid to the occipit, it is called as lesser occipital nerve. Another group bunch of nerves are crossing over the clavicle, that is called as supraclavicular nerves. This entire plexus is called as cervical plexus. This lies in the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. I will repeat the nerves. One nerve is crossing transversely and goes towards the neck, that is called transverse cervical nerve. Another one is going in oblique, crossing the sternocleidomastoid in oblique direction, goes near the angle of the mandible and near the ear, it is called as great auricular nerve. And another one is going to the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid and going to the occipital bone, that is called as lesser occipital nerve. Another one is group of nerves are coming down towards the clavicle, it is called as supraclavicular nerves. All these nerves are called as cervical plexus. So what's the clinical importance of that action? Next I will go to the action and then we'll see the clinical importance. Action is when the muscle pulls on the same side, the head is moved towards the same side, pulls the neck or head towards the same side. Another one helps in longus colli, that is a muscle, longus colli, that is a muscle of the neck, that along with the muscle it pulls the head towards the chin. Okay, it pulls the head towards the chin, for example like eating. Okay, so pulls the head towards the thorax. Understood? Both the muscles together if they act together, this one side, and if the both sides sternocleidomastoid if acts together, and the third one in lying down, it means in supine posture, if the muscle contracts, both the sides, if the muscle contracts, it will lead to the elevation of the thoracic cage. If you write this, that is more than enough. This is for the action. And what is the clinical anatomy? We will write for that. Clinical anatomy, point 1 is cervical plexus block will be given in the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, not in the anterior border. Number 1, posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid between the upper and middle 1/3 of the sternocleidomastoid. Here only you should give the cervical block, then only you can block all these nerves during procedures like biopsy of the lymph node. And the second one is if there is any congenital rupture of the sternocleidomastoid during delivery, what happens, this muscle clot will be there, the clot gets fibrosed. So what happens, this side muscle is getting fibrosed, so it shortens, so it pulls the head towards one side, that is called as torticollis. So number 1, clinical anatomy, what you have to write is cervical plexus block. Number 2 is torticollis or wry neck. Wry neck is the condition where the sternocleidomastoid is torn or ruptured, and it leads to sternocleidomastoid ruptured, fibrosed, leads to pull the head on the same side. That's it. Okay, this is called wry neck or torticollis. Here you will be having two varieties. One is called congenital due to the birth injury, and another one is spasmodic due to the injury of the nerves. And then number 3 is branchial fistula. Branchial cyst or fistula. Branchial cyst is the one, very important MCQ. It occurs in the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. This is the area where you have the branchial cyst. Branchial cyst is the one, it is a congenital abnormality. If there is a cyst in this area, you have to be very careful, because while taking out the cyst, here you will be having all the nerves, very important nerves, glossopharyngeal nerve, hypoglossal nerve, all the nerves will be crossing this area. So you have to be very careful. The important MCQ about branchial cyst is it lies on the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, but cervical plexus, posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. So 3 applications, clinical applied anatomy you should write. Among the 3, this torticollis is very important. and the most important relation you have to write is external jugular vein. So relations, one is external jugular vein, number 2 is cervical plexus. These two relations you should not forget to write. And then here usually people they forget to write proprioception, and in the clinical anatomy you have to write about torticollis. That's all about the sternocleidomastoid.